evening, everybody. Welcome. Apologies, just a couple of minutes later. As often, we've got a few little technical issues going on here today, but we'll explain those in just a minute. But don't you worry about them at all. Well, we were a little bit stressed just now, but we're okay. We've calmed ourselves down, so everything will be fine. So welcome to the Open Door Show from Property CEO. My name is Richard Clapson, and I'm here with the other half of Property CEO, Mr. Ian Child.
Good evening, everybody. Hope you're well.
Oh, he's nice, isn't he? Isn't he nice? Look, just in case this is your first time with us, what have you let yourself in for? Well, I can tell you, you're going to get about 45 minutes, slightly early this evening. We're normally on at 7, so welcome all those that have turned up at 6, and a few of you that have turned up at 7, then you're just going to be listening to this on the replay, so apologies for that. But 45 minutes of non-stop positivity, so we'll have you away just after 7:45, all around the theme of property development. Isn't that right, Mr. Child?
It certainly is. Richie and I run a company called propertyCEO, and basically our day job is training people how to become successful at small-scale property development. Of course, many people like the idea of developing property, but they often worry it might be risky, quite complicated, quite complex. So basically our job is to give them the support and the training that they need to be able to do it as safely and, of course, as successfully as possible. We also think that right now there really is an amazing opportunity in the world of development. It's going to create a lot of wealth, a lot of opportunity for developers. We want to help people find out all about that and to see if development might be a good fit for them.
Yeah, at the moment, I mean, someone mentioned to me the other day there's a global pandemic going on and potentially a recession. Obviously, if that is the case, then what a great opportunity that is. Let's not belittle the global pandemic. I know a lot of you have been touched by that. A lot of us have. But within these four walls, this is a positivity zone only. So we're going to ignore that this evening. But of course, the interesting thing is, out of pandemic, after recessions, there's great opportunities for developers, but only for those that go and seek them out rather than just waiting around. So yeah, great opportunities coming up. As always, we'll be serving up some advice, some predictions. We have a guest this evening, a little bit of a technical issue with that, but you will hear them even if you don't see them. And I guess it's going to be a little bit of training, but above all, we're going to have a bit of fun this evening, have a bit of fun with you all. And it is a question and answer show, so no questions. The show's pretty boring, really, because we'll just be rabbiting on with our guest, and we won't be answering any questions. So please put your questions in the chat box. We always like that. So who's on this evening? Well, there's a bunch of you on, which is really good. I'd say those that turned up at 7, then you're listening on the replay, so I can't give you a shout out. But who have we got on? Or look, someone else is just joining literally as I speak, so I don't know who that's going to be. But anyway, Simon's on, Ranjit's on, Anil's on, Tom's on, Ella's on, Rob's on, Debbie's on, Josh is on, 2 Debbies actually. That's good, isn't it? 2 Debbies on. Harjinder's on, Giovanni, Adir, Helen, Stephen, Thomas with a Z. Raj has just joined. Raj, there you got you just last minute there. So welcome all of you. And Debs has put a comment in because she always does, which is nice. She says, "Good evening, Rich and Ian." You could say good evening to our guest, Debbie, but that's not very nice, is it? 2 hours earlier than last week. Because the clocks went back. Yeah, she's shrewd, isn't she? Dinner is still cooking, so feeling a bit hungry tonight. Hope you're feeding us with some interesting stuff. See what she did there? Feeding us with some interesting stuff.
In fact, it wouldn't be the same unless we heard what Deb was having for tea. So I hope I'm getting hungry just thinking about it.
Just what you always want, isn't it? Ella said, can't wait to see what this show brings. Well, Ella, you'll have to wait because we haven't started properly yet. And Ranjit from Property Investor News says, good evening, Property CEO. Ranjit Singh from Property Investor News. Won't be listening to recording. I am on time. Oh, that's good. I like it. Hello, says Ella. Oh, hello. And by the way, guys, just apologies. The reason this is at 6 o'clock is that if you want a double bill of me tonight, I'm actually on at 7 o'clock on the Reading Property Meet, talking about what's going on in the property development industry at the moment. I believe it's free. So if you want to register for that whilst listening to us, you can join that at 7. Just type in the Reading Property Meet and you can have another dose of me at 7 o'clock as well as if you want. Anyway, we have a guest this evening, Ian, and do you want to talk about who our guest is? Because you're Mr. Mindset.
Our guest is, yeah. Our guest is, in fact, one of only 400 people qualified in the country under the International Coach Federation. She is a life coach, mindset coach, and her and her team work with propertyCEO on the subject of mindset, coaching our students And I think one of the things that it's probably fair to say that as we go through the world of property development, one of the things that is a kind of very common issue that students experience is that it's not necessarily a lack of information that gets in the way of them being successful. Quite often they can run into a few blockers when it comes to the mindset side of things, and that covers a whole kind of range of issues that can kind of get in our way of success. So mindset has always been one of the cornerstones of Property CEO, what we teach people to help them get through the slings and arrows in that particular section of part of the world. So Cara heads up our team on the mindset side and does a wonderful job for us. And we're really lucky to have her tonight to hopefully share a few tips on how people can make the most of their property development journey and dodge some of the flack that they might get from upstairs.
Okay, Cara, are you there? Can you hear us?
I can hear you really well. I'm just really sorry that you can't see me.
Well, welcome to the show. Well, first of all, can everyone give us a hands up if you can, see and hear myself and Ian, but can you all hear Cara? Give us a hands up if you can hear Cara. Cara, say hello again.
Hello, everybody.
Yes, they can. Brilliant. No, apologies. There's one question I have got for Cara before we start, because I'm pretty certain I know what the technical issues are about. Cara, do you work on an Apple or a Windows machine?
On a Mac.
Oh, well, there we go. That explains everything. So there's an ongoing debate here. We have a property CEO, Cara, about what is the right sort of machinery to use. And clearly, my case has been proved once again. Don't be mean to a Mac, says Ella. Well, I'm sorry, Ella, but Cara's, there's no image because Cara's Mac's not working properly. There we go. I rest my case, Ian.
Anyway, let's
I'm
move
just
on.
wondering, because I was sharing my screen earlier, I could share a photograph of myself.
No, don't do that. That put everyone off. Let's just go, let's just go with the voice, Cara, because they can just imagine what you look like, and if they want to know, they can go on our website, or indeed, I'm sure Cara will give her details out, and they can go on Cara's website later. How about that, Cara? Should we leave it at that?
Leave it at that, or connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm there as well.
I mean, she's putting all the adverts out there straight away. Did you see that, guys? Anyway, Ian, how should we start? Let's feed a couple of questions. Let's start thinking about mindset.
Yep. So for everybody, if you've got any questions about mindset, please do put them into the chat, and we can ask Cara. So I think the one to kick off with, Cara, is on this subject of a growth mindset. I think there's been lots of talk about having a growth mindset as opposed to a fixed mindset. What exactly is a growth mindset, and why should property developers have one?
So a growth mindset essentially is knowing that your intelligence is not fixed, but capable of growth. So what it means is it means remaining teachable and open to learning. It means knowing that you're going to have to put effort in and you're going to have to persist in the face of setbacks. It means that you welcome embracing challenges and learning from others, and you know that along the way you will make mistakes, but you will reframe those not as failure, but as learning. And I'm going to be popping in a few acronyms this evening. So the very first one is reframe the word fail as first attempt in learning.
Oh, I like that.
Make a note. First attempt in learning.
And then you asked me, do properties need to have a growth mindset? Property developers need to have one. And they absolutely do need to have a growth mindset, because when you set out to be a property CEO, you are not going to know everything that there is to know about property development. And anyone that's been following your course will know that you will be employing people and leveraging the skills and expertise of others who know more than you. So you're going to be on a journey where you're going to be doing things that you haven't done before. And inherent in doing things that you haven't done before is that you will slip up and you will make mistakes. And if you think that you've got to get it right, first of all, it will keep you in your comfort zone and you won't take the necessary steps that you need to be a successful property developer. I've lost my train of thought, so there we go.
Well, I tell you what, while you've lost your train of thought, shall we start firing some questions at you, Cara? Are you ready for a few questions? Because
Yeah,
people have
please
put some in the chat box.
Oh, we have.
Right, I'm gonna give you one from
ahead.
Jackie. So, Cara, Jackie's on this evening, and she says, "How common is it to have mindset challenges?" How common? I think you sort of said that, but let's answer that one to Jackie.
So it's incredibly common to have mindset challenges, and a really common mindset challenge is to think that you've got something called imposter syndrome, and everybody has imposter syndrome. It's something that never goes away, and it affects people of all seniorities. It affects people who've experienced fame and who are celebrities. And it particularly affects people who may well be the kind of person that embarks on being a property developer, which are high achievers, because high achievers tend to think, or they tend to focus on what they don't know, rather than what they do know. So everybody has mindset challenges and will be in situations where they think that they are surrounded by people who know more than them, or to be in situations where they feel that they may slip up and make a mistake.
And is that so? What is the definition of imposter syndrome? Because funny enough, Eileen's put a question in as well, which came in the same time as Jackie's. So what a coincidence that is. But she says, "I've heard about imposter syndrome, Cara." So she's actually just mentioned it. What really is it? And so I know you just talked about that. Maybe you could describe a little bit more what imposter syndrome is. But Eileen's question is there a cure for it?
Sure. So essentially, imposter syndrome, well, it's like a Ron seal. It is what it says on the tin. So it's feeling a fraud.
Yep.
So it's feeling that you shouldn't be where you are. So you'll be standing in a site meeting knowing that you're the CEO of this property development, thinking that everybody around you not only knows more than you, but will think that you know more than you do. So that is essentially imposter syndrome. It's feeling a fraud, feeling that you don't deserve to be standing or to be in the position where you find yourself. So that is imposter syndrome.
I think the interesting thing for that, Cara, is of course that if you're in that situation and you're looking around the site at everybody else thinking that they're looking at you, thinking the same thing, they're all thinking it too about themselves, aren't they? To some degree or another.
Yeah.
Okay.
It never goes away. And there are reasons that we have imposter syndrome, and we can go into those. And there are certainly lots of cures, and we can go into those. So where should we go next, guys?
Well, let's in terms of Eileen's question, is there a cure for it? So the answer by the sounds of it is yes, there is. Give us one tip of how one could try and cure that, just for Eileen's purposes, and then we'll go to another question.
Okay, I mean, there are loads of tips, and one of the first tips is what we're here discussing tonight, which is to have the right mindset. So if you've got a growth mindset and you are comfortable with being teachable, and the fact that you're going to be learning and that you're going to make mistakes, and that you see mistakes or failures, see mistakes not as failures but as learning opportunities, that will certainly help you over your imposter syndrome. But more tips now, or go to the next question?
No, I think that's good. I think hopefully, Eileen, that gives you a start. So you know what it is. We've answered that with Jackie's thing as well. And obviously, is there a cure? Yes, there is. There's a little bit of a tip there. And I think a lot of what Cara's going to say tonight will also help you. Ian, have we got another question?
We've got one here about fear. Like this one. Evening team, this is from Stephen. Sorry, Stephen. How big a role does fear play in preventing people getting results?
So fear plays a huge role, because fear is what keeps you planted firmly in your comfort zone. And when you are planted firmly in your comfort zone, you won't take the action and decisions that you need to be a successful property developer. Because when you are in your comfort zone, you don't act on things and you procrastinate. And the reason that fear keeps you in your comfort zone, and imposter syndrome is a kind of fear that keeps you in your comfort zone, is that whilst you're in your comfort zone, there's no risk of you making a mistake, feeling a fool, feeling embarrassed, or any of those things. So fear is designed to keep you safe because it keeps you in your comfort zone. And if you recognize what's going on, then you can have a good old talk to yourself and take some notice that you're experiencing the fear, reframe the fear. Here's another acronym coming up for you. So fear can also be face everything and rise.
Oh, like it.
There's another one. And some of the work or one of the mindset people that I follow closely is somebody called Brené Brown. And she talks about having to step into that arena a bit like the gladiatorial arena. And the arena is any time when you're going to feel uncomfortable. And she says that you have to get into that arena and experience that kind of stomach crunching fear, that kind of sick pit of your stomach feeling. And you have to get really, what does she call it? She says, learn to squirm. You've got to learn to squirm, because if you then take the action that makes you feel a bit uncomfortable and it all goes well, then you are going to experience that joy. So she says you've got to experience the excruciating in order to feel the exquisite, which is the joy and the excitement when things go well.
So you kind of know when you're moving forward because you're feeling that squirm. That you learn to make that feel like a good thing rather than what most people do, I guess, is feel like a bad thing. Yeah.
And we know that nerves can lead to adrenaline, and your adrenaline can kick in, and it's just learning to see all that as a positive and a good thing to have, rather than a hindrance and something that's going to hold you back.
I tell you what, Cara, I find it excruciatingly painful to work with Ian every day, but I guess I just got to push through that and see it as a positive thing. Maybe it's just my nerves. Who knows?
Yeah, try and push through it.
I had to go back. There was a comment.
It's not a unique problem, Rich. That's the.
Yeah, no, that's true. I go back. There's a quick comment in here. I must admit we passed over this one, but I'll give him his due. Ranjit from Property Investor News. I mentioned that again. He says, "Don't be mean to Max because I can see you and Ian on my Mac right now." Okay, Ranjit. Whatever. Okay, Debbie's question tonight, Cara. Debbie's got a question for you, and there's two Debbies on. So Debbie, you know which one you are that's asked this question, and the other one is not you. Any tips on getting the best out of each day? I always struggle in the mornings. That sounds like me.
Any tips on getting the best out of each day? So I'm a great one for a really good morning routine. Mm-hmm. So I will also start I start my every day with mindfulness. And I know that this is something that Ian talks about. And mindfulness actually is really good for helping you get over imposter syndrome, because mindfulness can help you let go of expectations and harsh judgments and limiting beliefs. So certainly I recommend starting the day with mindfulness. I then start it with some exercise, which is walking my dog.
Yep.
And by the time I come to my desk, I'm really set up for my day, and I'm really clear on what I'm going to be doing in the morning, because the night before I will have made myself a list of the most important things that I need to tackle the following day. Does that help, Debbie?
Hopefully, Debbie, does. If it doesn't help, Debbie, put it in the chat box and say no. If it does, then just say yes. Which would be, and Debbie has actually put instantly in the chat box, yes, thank you, but I don't have a dog, she says. Debbie, you can just go for a walk. You don't need a dog.
Maybe she's got a Mac. Who knows? We've got one in from Emma, who asks, says, I often find myself procrastinating, particularly when it comes to doing stuff I'm a bit nervous about or haven't done before. Any tips would be gratefully received. So procrastination tips, Cara, what do you think?
So with procrastination, the first thing is to notice that you're procrastinating, and think about why you're procrastinating. Is your procrastination around fear, or is it because the job is too large and you think that you don't have enough time? And in my experience, the best way to get over procrastination is to break things down into small steps and just to take the very first step so that you've passed go. And that very first step can be even just writing "Dear so-and-so" in an email, or it can be opening Safari or Chrome, whatever your browser is, and doing one piece of research. Or it could even be sending a text message or a WhatsApp to somebody to set up a call. So it's just taking that very first step can help you overcome procrastination. That's if the job's too big. If it's all wrapped up in fear, then let me go into one of the tips that I've got for overcoming the growth mindset, or for embracing the growth mindset, which is to think about what will happen if I don't do this. So what is the cost of inaction? And it's that real have a go or live with regret. And in fact, one of my sons has got a great expression. He says, it's better to live a life of what ifs, a life of oh wells than a life of what ifs.
Very true.
It's better to have a go. And you know what, if you don't make that call, if you don't go for the site, one example I was trying to think of for property development is if you're on a site and you know something's not right and you've got to have that difficult conversation with a builder. And here's another reframe: it's never a difficult conversation, it's a courageous conversation that you have to have. Just know that if you don't grasp that nettle and have that difficult conversation at that point, it's going to be so much more difficult further down the line. So, you know, it's that kind of, that's a good example of, you know, do it now or live with regret.
Fantastic, thank you, Emma. Hopefully that helped. I think one to add to that, or in a very similar vein, is there's a couple of rules. One is the 5-second rule, which is always quite a good one for getting things done. So the way it works is if you basically count down from 5 and then you just go and do it. And apparently that means that there isn't enough time for your brain to think of an excuse for not doing it. And by the time you've counted down to 0 and done it, your brain thinks, oh, shucks, I missed out there. And so you actually end up getting stuff done. Really good for getting out of bed in the morning if the duvet is proving to be a bit clingy. And then the 5-minute rule, there's 5 of everything. 5-minute rule is when, to your point, Cara, about sometimes when tasks are a little too big, we tend to put them off because we think, well, we're never gonna break the back of that. It's such a big job. And actually, if you just dedicate and say to yourself, I'm only going to spend 5 minutes doing this job, so I'm going to break up a tiny little chunk, then what actually happens when you get into it is you get into this state called flow, where you actually, and we've all experienced it, when we just get into something, and before we know it, it's not 5 minutes that has passed, it's 10 or 15 or half an hour, whatever, and actually we've made quite a lot of progress. So the 5-second rule or the 5-minute rule, Google them. They can be your friends when it comes to procrastination. So there you go.
Good stuff. Emma, look what you started there. I tell you, the interesting thing out there for all you that are listening and watching this is that you won't necessarily know that Cara actually started her career out as an RICS chartered surveyor in the industry. So one of the reasons that we wanted to work with Cara here at propertyCEO is that she understands what developers are doing. You know, not just she's got all this skill set in the mindset stuff, she's actually, you know, she's been in this industry as well. Great stuff. Okay, I've got a question here from Ella. So Ella's question to you, Cara, is how do you keep motivated and in a positive mindset when things don't feel as successful as hoped and you've not gained as much in return probably as you expected? So I'm assuming they're basically, things haven't turned out quite as well as Ella wanted and they've not been financially as successful. So how do you maintain the positive mindset then?
How do you maintain the positive mindset? So I would, it's just looking for the small wins, and the small things to be grateful for, and the small things that have gone well in that project. If we're talking about a project, and what you've learned. And if things haven't worked out as well as you wanted because of things that you could have done differently, then learn from that and apply, that new learning going forward.
Yeah, I think it's one of the things you mentioned earlier, Cara, was about failure and seeing failure as a positive rather than as a negative. I think we so often, don't we, get sort of stuck into that sort of frame of mind where things haven't turned out as we'd hoped, and it all becomes a bit doom and gloom. And so often people give up. So often people just think, well, it's too difficult. I tried it. It didn't work. I'm going to do something else. But it's the ones that are successful are the ones that just push through it. And I'm always amazed by the stories when you read the biographies of successful people, whether that's sports people or billionaires, business people. They've all tend to have one thing in common, which is that they've had some quite spectacular failures at the start, and the only thing that actually made them successful in the end was persistence and taking action, and they kept on falling over and picking themselves back up again. So I think that would be certainly part of my advice to anybody that's feeling like that, is basically look at it as a lesson. You've definitely failed. Was it Thomas Edison who failed 1,000 times to invent the light bulb, but eventually did it? And he had a few great quotes on the subject. But yeah, picking yourself up and going again is a surefire route to success if you never give up.
Cara, there's a follow-up question from Ella, and let me just tack this one on, because Ella says, any advice on comparing yourself with others? Often I find this when I see other people that are more successful than me, and it leads me to having a negative mindset. So when you compare yourself to others, what about that?
Absolutely. And I think it's that there are a couple of ways of looking at that. So one way is to do with swans and icebergs. So you only tend to see the swan, you don't see the feet paddling madly beneath the water. You see the tip of the iceberg and not everything that's going on beneath the surface. And certainly with sort of social media or comparing with anything, there's this kind of compare and despair. So you've got to stop comparing yourself to others. And there's an expression about don't compare your behind the scenes with other people's show reels.
I like that.
Is another way of looking at it. And the other thing to know is that don't compare yourself with where other people are on their journey, because you tend to compare yourself to somebody who's been in the game longer and had already had some successes, and so you see them where they are and you don't see them where they were at the beginning. And so what when I'm working with people in their careers, I say to them, seek out a mentor. So that's part of what you offer, I know, is that mentorship. But don't just ask the mentors for their advice. Ask them to share their stories. Ask them what it was like for them right at the beginning of their game. And then you'll realize that they've been where you are. Does that help, Ella?
Hopefully it does. Hopefully it does. Ella, let us know if it does, and hopefully you've liked that response. Cara, thank you. Next question, Ian.
Got one in from Raj. He says, Yo, A-Team and Cara, how difficult is it to adapt a mindset when in your 60s to being more risky and fearless rather than cautious, doddery and scared?
Great question. So this is an opportunity for me to say, let's get rid of the word risk straight away and call it experiments. Okay. Even that sort of small shift can help. You just think of it as experiments rather than taking risks. So that's one thing. How else?
I suppose it's challenging, isn't it, when you get into your sort of slightly later in life. There's that the kind of perspective changes a little, but I guess what the follies of youth, when you're sitting there sort of dreaming of these aspirations with the years stretching in front of you, and you have these big goals, actually one of the benefits, I guess, that comes with age and experience is the fact that you're able to bring that experience to bear more easily on achieving things that are perhaps more achievable and more satisfying. So even though we do tend to, I think, naturally become cautious, we have the experience to kind of temper that, which means that actually we should, in theory, make less mistakes. But I guess it's still that whole question of being outside your comfort zone, getting into that frame of mind where, yes, we feel that this is a bit of a risk, this is a bit of a challenge, but actually we've got to push ourselves out into that space. One of the challenges, I think, for all entrepreneurs and property developers, no exception, is that we don't tend to have a whole team of people pushing us forward. It's normally just us, and if we don't do it, then nobody pushes us. So it's all down to us to kind of make all the moves here, which is why it's so important to kind of get under the skin of that fear and kind of recognize it and sort of, yeah, to your point earlier, Cara, kind of step into it and embrace it, as Brené Brown says.
I think the other thing, Ian, is that it's that your mindset is key, because when you're being a property CEO, one of the things you talk about is that one of your roles is to bring together a team of experts. And so if you've got your team of experts together, then they will be there advising you. I mean, they're not going to make the ultimate decision for you, but they will be giving you their best advice to help you make the decision. And so you will tend to have as many facts and figures and data as you can at your fingertips to help you make that decision. And what we've experienced, and this is why you've got me on board, is that it's often that doesn't stop, that doesn't hold you back from making the decisions that you need to make. It's that little voice in your head. And so what we're trying to do is get rid of that voice so that you can act on the information available and have a go rather than living with regret.
Fantastic. Raj, I hope that's answered your question.
Yeah, but Raj did say, Raj's question there about someone being old in their 60s and doddery, he did say he was referring to his dad when he was asking the above question. Well, Raj, we clearly knew that you were just a young whippersnapper and you were asking on behalf of your father. What I would say there, Raj, is there are many people considerably older than 60 that have gone out in many businesses and had a great success. And I can tell you there are people that we are training that are quite a bit older than 60. And I'm not saying whether they're on this evening or how old they are, giving any more information away, but they are. By the way, Cara Ella said yes, big thanks for her questions that you answered earlier on this sort of comparison to others and how successful she was in her business. Yvonne's got a question for you, Cara. So Yvonne's question is, what, and she's just a young whippersnapper as well, what is the best way to use a vision board or other visual reference to help achieve your goals?
What is the best way to use it?
Any visual references? So Yvonne's probably thinking she's got a vision board. I guess she's got some stuff on it, which is where she wants to get to. What's the best way to, rather than just sit and stare at it, is there any tips that Yvonne could get to making this come alive for her, perhaps?
Yeah, well, I'm just going to say congratulations if she actually has got a vision board, because lots of people will think that having a vision board is a good thing to do, but actually putting one together is a fantastic first step. And the reason for that is that when you bring your goals to life and have some visuals around it, it makes them seem that much more real. When I'm working with my coaching clients, what we would then do is create what I call an overarching plan, where we draw an arch, literally, from where you are now to where you want to be. We say that the arch is built on pillars, so it's all about property again. We're building a bridge, and each of those pillars will be an area that you want to focus on to achieve your vision. And each of those pillars are perpendicular, so they're parallel. Those pillars are built out of bricks. and the bricks are actions that you will take in that particular area of focus. So to bring your vision board to life, you then need to translate it into an overarching plan where the arch is built on pillars. Each pillar is an area of focus on your vision board, and you then start breaking the pillars into bricks, which are the specific actions, and then you take action. You decide which actions you're going to move forward on. You take action, and then hopefully after a period of time you'll realize that you've been building up your pillars, your arch is joined up, and that you're no longer on the left hand side of the arch, which is where you are now, but you are over on the other side, which is where you want to be.
That's brilliant. What a great response, Yvonne. Hopefully that's been useful. Yvonne is one of our students out there, and had a few chats with Yvonne over recent weeks. And Yvonne, I know you are doing those individual steps and building those individual bricks in your pillars. So hopefully you can start to see your vision board coming alive. Next question, Ian.
I've got one in here from Martin. Evening, Cara and team. Can a mindset coach help with other aspects aside from business success? What other areas do you cover? What do you think about that?
So yes, I mean, a mindset, a coaching can help with lots of areas other than mindset. So it can help you move forward on any aspect of your life. It could be an aspect around your health and fitness. It could be an aspect around relationships. It could be around your own personal development, so kind of your personal self-esteem, your self-confidence. So yes, coaching can help with many other aspects, not just your mindset. The idea of coaching is that it's not remedial. It takes you from a position which is already good and makes you even better. That's the idea around coaching. And it enables you to do it because it's very, very hard to do by yourself. And top sportsmen, top business people, successful entrepreneurs will all be working with a coach, with somebody who's non-judgmental, who's got no agenda, who can just help you unpick what it is that's holding you back from making progress, and can just really help you. They call it, Stephen Covey calls it sharpening the saw, just really helping you to move from good to better.
And I think that's one of the points that you mentioned there is so important. The fact that most people don't actually have somebody that they can have those conversations with that is totally unconnected, non-judgmental. We've all got friends, family, colleagues, acquaintances, and so on. But there's a sort of there's a massive neutrality when it comes to having a mindset coach, quite apart from the expertise that they bring to bear, isn't there?
Absolutely. And if you've had some of these conversations with your loved one, they're not going to be able to give you the right advice. And the idea is coaching doesn't give you advice anyway, but they can't be impartial. They're going to have an agenda. They're going to be completely caught up in whether your development is a success or not. So if you're already feeling fearful, they may add a whole another level of fear. Or conversely, if you are feeling that something is not a good idea to go for, and in your heart of hearts, but the person you're speaking to is much less risk averse and is telling you just to go for it, that may be the wrong decision. Whereas when you're working with a coach, they can really help you tune in to what you think is the right thing to do and to help you make those difficult decisions. And
can I just ask, what would be the most common sort of issues that you see, Cara, with your coaching clients? What are the most common issues that they have?
So issues can be around taking the plunge to do something new. So a career change, for example. Issues can be around how to get a more balanced life. So there'll be somebody who's just working all the time, and they know that they need to make time for fitness, and they need to make time for friends, and they need to make time for family, but they don't know how to break that cycle to bring those other elements into their life. So balance is a big thing that people bring to coaching. And another area would be mojo. I work with lots of people who just say, I've completely lost my mojo, I don't know what's wrong. They don't need counselling. It's not that they're depressed, it's just that they're at some kind of crossroads. And by talking it through with somebody, that can help. And when I say talking it through, that might make it sound like counselling. Coaching is different from counselling. Coaching takes you meets you where you are now and moves you forward. It's not about going into the past and unpacking the past. It's definitely about creating that vision for the future and creating that overarching plan that's going to get you there.
Fantastic.
With buckets of enthusiasm and care and accountability and encouragement, and something which we call the loving boot, which is that mixture of support and challenge.
Carrot and stick. I like it. Martin, I hope that answered your question. Have you got any other questions, Rich?
Yes, I have, and I just see that a few of you just joined only a few minutes ago. I see Jay, you've just joined, and Peter's just joined us. So, guys, if you just joined us, you're probably wondering where Cara's image is. Unfortunately, a few techie issues, so we have no Cara's image, but we have her voice. So, and of course, if you want to watch the part of the show you've missed, the recording will be up early next week. Just picking up on a couple of bits of feedback earlier, Raj, who asked about the question for his father, he's thank you for all those motivational, inspirational thoughts for my father. That's good, Raj, we believe you. Deb says, love the arch and the pillar visual that you were doing to Yvonne, and Yvonne says, thank you, I would try that. So some great feedback there, which is really good. Okay, quick question here. This is following on what we talked about earlier. Rob says, I think that communication with colleagues in the same boat would be conducive to avoiding procrastination. What do we think about that? So basically working with people in the same level. I think we sort of discussed that. Would you agree with that as a good thing to do, Cara?
Absolutely. And I coined that phrase, phone a friend.
Yes.
Yeah. So talking about things definitely helps you move forward, and whether that's peer support, being part of a mutual learning community, or working with trusted mentors, talking about things definitely works. It's that old problem shared is a problem halved.
Well, Rob, you can phone a friend, but I'm not sure if Rob's got any friends. If you haven't got anyone to phone, Rob, give me a call. I'm happy to take the call and just pretend to be your friend for just a little while. Okay, Cara, let's get one more question in. We always like to finish around Q2. We're on Q2 exactly. So the lucky last person is going to be George. For all those that we haven't answered your question, I do apologise, but maybe we'll see if Cara can come back with a visual next time. George's question, it's quite topical actually, not why I chose it. I chose them completely at random, but George's question, Cara, is, I'm worried about the future with all this uncertainty going on. What simple tip would you say could help? We all need this.
We do.
The simple tip when you are faced with so much uncertainty is to come back to what can you control, even if it's something really, really small. So even if it's just controlling a decision about what I'm going to eat for supper tonight, or what you're going to watch on television, making that positive choice over the Netflix thing that you're going to watch. So when you're surrounded and feeling deeply out of control, bring it right back to what are the smallest things that I can control and take action on those.
Brilliant.
So, Cara, in terms of what people should do with regard, people might not have had a mindset coach before, or a life coach or executive coach. I know from experience that a lot of the top execs I work with, mindset and executive coaching was very much the order of the day. It was everybody had executive coaching of some description because it made such an amazing difference to people that were already actually performing at a pretty high level. But what, in terms of the way you work, how would you recommend people go about both getting in touch with you, and then what's your kind of process? Because perhaps they might be thinking they're not sure at the moment whether mindset coaching is a good fit.
Sure, Ian. So I don't know how best for them to get my contact details. I'll leave that with you, but I'm there on LinkedIn, so that's a really easy way to connect with me, Cara Moore. The other thing to do is to have a look at my website, and again, it's just my name, so it's dead simple. It's www.caramore.co.uk. That's more with a double O and an E on the end. And the very first step would be to have a phone call with me for about 20 minutes. There's no charge for that call. It's just a question of me really getting to hear the nub of the issue that you think you want coaching on and building that rapport up between us. If that 20-minute call goes well, we would then make a time for the first mindset or leadership or executive coaching session. I tend to work in blocks of 6 sessions, but you only sign up and commit to the very first session. So you get your free call, you then pay for the first session, and then at the end of the first session, if you, having tried before you buy the whole program, you like what you've experienced, we would then engage for another 5 sessions, and then many people, that's enough. Some people then continue to check in with me every quarter, but that's way down the line. What we're talking about for your listeners this evening, or viewers, because they've got to see your lovely faces tonight, but not mine, is just drop me an email or message on LinkedIn. We'll have that first 20-minute call, and we'll take it from there.
Fantastic. And your email address, Cara, if people wanted to email you?
Sure. It's Cara, C-A-R-A, at caramore.co.uk.
Nice and easy. Fantastic. Cara at caramore.co.uk. Fantastic. Thank you very much.
I do have a property CEO email which you can give people, but that doesn't run off my tongue just yet.
I think the Cara Moore direct one is absolutely fine. I mean, a lot of our students out there who are on this evening are we'll come across you. Some of them are on the program where they do work with you. What we'll also do, Cara, we'll put your contact details, your website, and your email address, if that's okay, in the show notes, so everyone can find them on YouTube when it's up next week, and indeed on our website. So if you want to pick those details up, if you didn't write them down, we can pick them up. Cara, thank you for coming in this evening by voice. Perhaps we'll try and get you back before too long with a visual as well. Would that be okay?
I'd really like that. And I just want to sign off really quickly by saying, I'm embodying the growth mindset this evening, because I could have been completely thrown by the fact that my video is not working. I could be beating myself up, telling myself I haven't prepared hard enough. But these things happen, and I've moved on. I am going to learn from the experience. I am going to work out whether I need to ditch Mac and move over to a laptop.
No, let me help you with the answer to that one.
I hope not. I hope there is going to be a tech workaround.
I'm sure there will be.
Who knows? Who knows? Cara, thank you very much. We bid you farewell. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Happy shopping on Amazon for your next Windows machine.
Thank you.
Thanks, Cara. Take care.
Wow. That was good, wasn't it?
That was fantastic.
Yeah, so, like that. That was good.
And I think one of the most interesting things is about mindset not being, when Cara was saying that it's not a remedial issue, I think a lot of people think that it's some form of counseling that you need when something's gone wrong. But actually, it can just take you from, it doesn't take you from bad to good. It can also take you from good to great. And yeah, if you haven't tried it, I think well worth giving it a go. I love the fact that she, you can have a sort of a discussion with her to kind of see what you'd get out of it before, sort of try before you buy, so to speak. But yeah, it's a really powerful tool, generally, mindset training, which is why we have it as part of what we teach people, and why Cara and her team of mindset coaches work with our students.
Great stuff. So guys, we're just about to sign off. Please let us know in the chat box if you've enjoyed tonight's show, even with a bit of technical problems. So it's always nice to have your comments in there. Our next show is next Thursday, back at the normal time. So Thursday, the 5th of November. Remember the 5th of November.
But are you sure? Because we would all quite like to fit in with your diary again. If it's convenient for you to make 7 o'clock. You haven't got anything.
I can't help it if I'm in demand. I can't help it. I can't help it. So 7 o'clock next Thursday, we will see you there for another great session. And let's just see who said what in the show notes as we disappear. Let's have a look. Rob says, looking forward to seeing you on Tuesday, old friend. I said Rob didn't have any friends. Rob, I was joking. And I'll be your friend on Tuesday. It's our Academy Day on Tuesday, which I'm looking forward to that. Rob, looking forward to seeing you. Another great show, says Ranjit from Property Investor News. Thank you, ladies and gents. Don't ditch the Mac, says Ranjit. Ella says, great show. Looking forward to seeing another one. Thanks, guys, says Sumi. Simon says, all good. Thank you. Thanks for a great show, says Harjinder. And Yvonne says, thanks for a super show as usual. 6 or 7, okay for me. Well, no, 7 o'clock next week. That's where we're going to be. A final one from Debs. Excellent chaps. Listening on my iPad, eating bangers, beans and mash.
Wow.
There we go. What a note to finish on. See you next week. Goodbye.
Bye.